Hey gang, welcome back to Let's Level Up. My name is Rick. Today we're going to be talking about Chuck Yeager's Rise of Cthulhu. This is a two-player card game that's going to play in about 30 minutes, probably a little less, and it's set in the Lovecraftian mythos. There's a lot of really awesome shenanigans to be had in this game, and evil shenanigans, terrible shenanigans, all sorts of terrible cultist things. There are a lot of games out there that take place within the Lovecraftian world, or the Lovecraftian mythos, as I call it. Most of those games, and is that a fair thing to say? Let me say this, a lot of those games have you playing the part of the academics, the professors, the investigators, the reporters, those people who are trying to figure out what's happening and put a stop to it. In Rise of Cthulhu, we play the cultists. Each one of us will be going head-to-head on 4 different Lovecraftian locations of much renown, and playing cards of different colors, and they have a value as well on these locations. If my power is higher than your power, then I take control of that location. If an old one happens to show their ugly head, they will go to one of the 4 locations. Once they go to that location, they have a benefit that they'll give to the person who is currently in control of the location, and that location will be locked for the rest of the game. The game ends when 3 locations have been locked by old ones, and whoever controls the majority of those locations is declared the victor. Rise of Cthulhu is a really high-stakes, fast-paced game, and I think it is a heck of a lot of fun. So why don't you follow me to the table? We'll show you a little bit of how to play Rise of Cthulhu, and show off some of the artwork in this game, and then after that, give you our final thoughts. Alright, so here we have the box art for Rise of Cthulhu. You can see it's a fairly small box. 2 players, 14 and up, 20 to 30 minutes gameplay, not meant for children of ages 0 to 3 years old. You can see a little taste of the artwork here, and I really want to make the artwork shine in this because it is really, really good. I'm going to pop this guy open. See, we got our rule book. Very, very light, and not a whole lot of rules to this game, but a lot of strategy. We got 2 trays for games, 2 trays for cards, and a little meeple here. And this guy is just an awesome meeple. I really love this thing. You can see look at the quality of the components in the packaging here. I mean, a really nice tray, very sturdy. The box art and everything is great. It's just an extremely professional production here. The quality is amazing. Alright, so we're going to set this guy over here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate our 4 locations. And those locations are going to be Arkham, Innsmouth, Dunwich, and finally Kingsport. And each of these is going to be tilted to the side. And that's going to let us know that nobody currently controls these locations. Okay. This guy's going to go, I'm just going to set it right there from now. It's going to go in between the valley and the deck. And then this will actually move to the locations as you play cards to the valley. Here are our cards for the actual main game. Here's what our players will be getting to play. And this is known as the cultist deck. So you can see that these cards actually have a couple really cool things. One, again, just to showcase the art a bit, because the art is really nice. I mean, just absolutely wonderful. Look at this. This is a some sort of fortune teller or some sort of clairvoyant. She's obviously into the occult. You'll notice a couple things. There is a color on the border, and then there's going to be a power level, which is the number on the top of the card. Cards are stronger if their number is higher. So if you have a 7 on a location and I play an 8, I control that location. So really on your turn, you're going to do a couple things. You're going to have 5 cards in your hand. You're going to be able to do one of the following. You can play 2 cards from your hand on any of the locations or the valley. And let's go ahead and just set a card in the valley really quick so you can see that. So here's our valley card. It's a blue 3. You can play 2 cards, you can draw 2 cards, or you can play and draw a card in either order. So you can either play a card and then draw a card, or draw a card and then play a card. If I play a card at a location, and I am currently in the lead of that location, so you can see here I've got a 5 on Arkham. Arkham is going to face towards me. Now, each of these locations has a bit of text on there that lets you know what happens if you play 5 of something. So, for instance, if you're the first to play 5 cards in a run here, you may summon a random old one in your favor at this location from the unused cards. So you'll be able to take the favor of the old one as long as you get a run. And a run, again, just like poker, is going to be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from your numbered cards. If we look at Innsmouth here, it's the first to play 5 cultists of the same color. And then we're going to have 1 for even, and then 1 for odd as well. So this is actually, Kingsport's going to be the even, and Innsmouth is going to be the odd. So I can play a location here, and then maybe I want to play a card to the valley. Now the valley, and let's just say that I've got my opponent has a green 8 there, so they're actually going to be in control of Innsmouth. And this wouldn't be so close to the play area. This would be off to the side, but just for sake, we're going to put the cultist deck right there at the top of the frame, where it's really useful. And just talk about the valley for a second. Now, the valley is a blue 3. Now, in order to play on the valley, I have to either match the color that's currently played at the valley or beat the value. So if I'm looking at my hand, I've got an 8, a 7, a 4, and a 10. I don't need to play anything but the 4 here to play the valley, and then I can get control of our sweet figure. Now, when I move this guy, I can move him to any location, and when he goes to that location, it's basically going to block the location from being played as long as it's there, and it's going to kill the cultist with the highest power at that location. Now, if I also happen to have an 8 here at this location, it would kill one of each of the highest. So if I had 2 8s and my opponent had an 8, one of my 8s would die, and my opponent's 8 would die, but I'd still have 1 left. So you don't have to wipe out all of them if they match. So for instance, if I had this situation here, firstly, this would be actually a tie, and then I place the Shadow Hunter here, and then both of these would get killed. But if I had a 7 and my opponent had an 8 there, only the 8 that was in the highest would get killed. So that would go away, and then this would shift into my favor. Now, a couple things to remember, to know about this game is that there are going to be several old ones in this game. Here we have Haster, here's a Yager, and then here is a Yig. And each of these old ones has a circle here. And let me just get a little closer here so you can see. So you can see on each of these cards there is a letter here on the right side and then text at the bottom. So this is I for Innsmouth, A for Arkham, D for Dunwich, and K for Kingsport. And when these cards draw, they're going to be placed at the location that is currently open and and does not have an old one already on it. So this guy would go to Innsmouth like that. And you would also be able to get the current benefit from this card as well, which at this time says destroy all cards in play except for 1. So I could maybe keep that guy there and then destroy everything else that's currently there. So that's very interesting. Now, there are a lot of actual old ones in the deck that we currently aren't using. When you get ready to play the game, let me just get those out really fast. So here we have our monsters and our relics. Here are the rest of the old ones. So that was the Yig, destroy all cards in play. Haster says your opponents treat all cultists as if they were 2 points less. The Yog Sagath says draw an artifact card. If there are no artifact card, draw a target cultist an opponent control. Destroy target cultist an employee controls worth 8 or less. Ithaqua says your opponent gives you 1 artifact card. If it has none, he gives you the highest cultist in the can. The Cthulhu says your opponent discards their hand. If Cthulhu is the last to awaken, destroy an opponent's card in play as well. And then we have something really interesting. We've got Nyarlathotep and Sheg-Niggurath still, but we're just going to talk about Azathoth here. Azathoth says you gain 10 victory points at the end of the game, and then the game can only be won by points. which is really, really interesting. So in order to win the game, you're basically going to have to control the majority of locations when 3 old ones come out. So if I control these 2 locations, congratulations, I win. But if Azathoth comes out, it now turns into a victory point game. Whoever controls Azathoth immediately gets 10 points, and then you can total up all the power you have, and including any artifacts that you may have, which are worth, I believe, 6 points apiece. So if I had an artifact and I had these 2 cards, I would basically have 18 points, and if my opponent controlled Azathoth, that would be 10, and excuse me, if they had another power, that'd be 18. That would be a tie. And there are a couple ways to break the tiebreaker, but if you can't break a tie, if it's truly a legit tie, both players lose the game. And I think that is something that is really cool and unique about Rise of Cthulhu. And it just totally fits with the theme as well. Messing with powers that we don't understand. So there are a couple questions. We're going to talk about these cards here in a second. But to set up the game, you're going to take your deck of old ones. You're going to shuffle these guys up really good, much better than this, and you're going to deal 3. And then you're going to shuffle up your cultist deck and really good, and give each player 5 cards. And then you're basically going to put the rest of this in thirds, and putting a old one in between each of the thirds. And again, you probably want to do this so it's a little more even. But now we have 3 random old ones that we don't know what are. The rest of them go into the box, so we don't have to worry about them. And then we have our cultist deck. So as we play the game, we're going to be drawing cards from this cultist deck. We're eventually going to hit an old one. There's Azathoth right there. So when he comes out, again, we're going to place him based on the placing rules. Whoever controls that location gets him. And then Azathoth comes out and totally changes the game that we're playing in the win condition, which again is really, really cool for me. So as we're playing the game, we're going to be playing 2 cards at these locations on our turns, or 1 card and drawing card. But there are a couple things to keep in mind in the term of combos, and that they're all going to come in 3s. So I can either play 3 of the same exact number at a location and get to, I may move the hunter around on the board and then take out other people's things. If I play 3 of the same color, I'll actually get to pick a monster card out, which we'll talk in a second. And if I get 3 of the same color that happens to also be a run, like this blue 4, 5, and 6, I'll actually get to be able to pick an artifact card as well. And that artifact cards and monster cards don't count against playing one of your plays during your turn. So I could still play 2 cards and play as many monster cards or as many artifact cards or both as I have or want to at that particular time. So an artifact card is actually a really cool key. It says you discard a cultist, you discard this card to cancel a cultist or a monster card, or keep it at the end of the game for 6 points. And there are a ton of minor creatures here in the game. And again, the artwork is just so cool for these guys. I'm so just geeking out over how awesome everything is. Everything about the artwork in this game is just phenomenal. So this, for instance, this monster is a deep one. Whenever you play it, you get to destroy 2 target cultists an opponent controls that are 4 or less. Here we have a Dark Young, and it says you force an opponent to randomly discard 3 cards from their hand. So these are kind of immediate powers that you get to take advantage of. Here we have an Elder Thing, and it says take another 2 actions on this turn. So some of them are going to be banes for your opponent, some of them are going to be boons for you, some of them could potentially be bad for you. So you just need to be mindful of the situation that you're currently in, because you can kill cultists and things can happen to your cultists that you may not be expecting to happen. So you need to be mindful of what you're doing. But the monsters add a really sweet level of strategy to this game and flair. That is a quick rundown of how the game works. I will say, if you guys want to know more in detail, you should check out Lance's video at Undead Viking over Rise of Cthulhu. He did a really good job, I think, explaining the rules. And Lance is an awesome guy, and one I definitely recommend you guys checking out his channel if you aren't already. So that's it for Rise of Cthulhu as far as how to play and a quick overview of the game. So let's go back to the shelf and we can talk about my final thoughts for Chuck Yeager's Rise of Cthulhu. Well, that is it for Rise of Cthulhu. Chuck, I think you have made an absolutely fantastic game. Let's go over some similarities and some things that were weighing on my mind whenever I first was introduced to this project, Rise of Cthulhu. One, the whole battling over locations has been seen in games like Smash Up. So my first question is this like Smash Up without the factions? And it really isn't. And now, granted, we are both playing power to each side of this thing, and whoever has the most power controls it. But that base, or rather the location, there's no smashing it on a certain point value. It's going to be randomized depending on when the old one comes out, or depending on if I could get the location to actually spawn the old one out if I play 5 cards there of a certain kind. There is a lot of mechanic built into the game that involves on you building combos or you blocking your opponents from building combos by moving the hunter around. And that mechanic in itself is very, very cool, and one that I think really, really just brings out the theme of this game. To me, it's hard to do a Lovecraft-themed game and do it right when there's not an element of roleplay involved and when there's not an element of deduction or investigation involved. However, I would say that Chuck has nailed the theme on the head and supplemented by some of the best artwork that I have seen in a card game. Rise of Cthulhu is a very, very strong game to play at my house. I've played it with my son, who's 6, and he doesn't make the best strategical decisions, but he does really enjoy the game, and he thought the idea of being a cultist and bringing out these old ones was absolutely fantastic. He, in his little mind, just never really thought that he could be the bad guy like that, and it was just a great way of looking at things, and we both had a lot of fun playing this game. This is a really easy game to learn. It's one that's going to be difficult to master, which I think for people who are looking for a good strategy game, that's one thing that I always look for in a good strategy game. One, can I get my friends into this game easily? And two, is it one that we can play over and over again and still sort of surprise each other with every playthrough? I think Rise of Cthulhu is a game like that. There's a lot of different strategy involved depending on when I play my locations, when I draw my cards. When I play my cards on locations and when I draw my cards. Or when I play and draw. And then again, if I can try to get that combo and stop you from getting yours. The monster and the artifact cards really add a nice mechanic to the game as well, which gives you a lot of surprise value and a lot of aha moments, which I think is really, really cool. Just talking about the theme again, I think the Mythos is a genre that we see a lot in tabletop games, but it's not necessarily a genre that always brings us hit after hit after hit, right? There's a lot of bad Cthulhu-type games, I think. Rise of Cthulhu is not one of those. Rise of Cthulhu is a very good game, and I think because it nails its theme so just perfectly. There is something really, really cool, and to think about there are these cultists all over the world who are just trying to die at the end of the day. They're trying to bring this force into the world where they don't comprehend it all, and sometimes that's going to result in a double loss, which I think, just because that's in this game, you can do that, is really, really cool. Again, Rise of Cthulhu is one I think you guys should definitely check out. It is definitely one that Let's Level Up gets a big thumbs up with. This is a must-have, according to me. If you're a fan of strategy games, if you're a fan of 2-player games, and if you're a fan of the Cthulhu Mythos, and if you're looking for a good filler game, this plays in under a half hour, so it's definitely something you can fit in between sessions or play it multiple times in a row and make an evening out of it. And if it's only 2 players, if you don't have that big game group, this is a great game to just tuck in your backpack. It's very small. You see, it's not even as big as my hand, and it's just something that's really portable and playable, and it just doesn't take a lot of table space. So definitely check out the Kickstarter for the second printing of Rise of Cthulhu. I don't think you guys will be upset once you back this thing and you get this in your hands to play. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching this. Chuck for allowing me the opportunity to check out Rise of Cthulhu. And guys, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tell your friends. That's what helps us out the most. You can follow me on Twitter at Let's Level Up, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Let's Level Up, DOTNET. That's letslevelup.net. And of course, all of our information is available to you on our website, letslevelup.net. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, and game on.